Okay.
Welcome everybody to Massive Source Conversations and Podcast. Today I am so happy to have Ariette. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Today's show, we're starting anew. It's been a while actually since I did my last podcast in 2021. A lot is moving in the field and in the world, and I also had to take a step back to digest and integrate, and hopefully some of it will be shared in order to give the medicine and to share the embodied wisdom that both me and Ariette have in order to help others transition through their difficulties or whatever they're experiencing. So without further ado, welcome Ariette. And I'm just so excited to have this interview with you. I mean, it's more like a conversation. That's how I see it. And I know that you do so much beautiful work and you're shining so much beautiful light into this world, which at times can seem confusing and dark and whatnot. But then I can tune into your channel or see some of the things that you, amongst others as well, are posting, and I regain hope and faith. And I return into a place of myself where I'm like, yes, that's what it is. Okay, I can carry on. So would you be so kind to introduce yourself and tell our beautiful audience what it is that you do in the world and who you are here to show up as, or whatever you feel like sharing?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me and having me here. And I'm really honored, and it's a joy to talk to you. Yeah, when we meet on soul level, things can flow really from the heart. So that's what I would like to start with when I introduce myself. My name, the name I use internationally is Ariette Love, and my company is called HeartSolutions, which you write with heart and soul, because the solutions from your soul you can find in your heart. So, and that's, yeah, that sums it up in a nutshell, really, what I'm here for, to support people, to remember that everything is found within, all treasures, you know, gained in other lifetimes, gained in this lifetime. Doesn't even matter if you remember certain lifetimes, but we do remember, we do have inner memory of our inner treasures, qualities, gifts, and yeah, our mission in this lifetime, our purpose. So that's what I support people in a variety of ways. You know, I'm rather easily bored. So I need to find new challenges all the time, and I can never really rely on, in that sense, on what I have done, but I need to keep expanding, and I love that. I love the opportunities life is giving me to show up on YouTube, on whatever social media platform. I have organized, and you were part of it, worldwide events like Joining Forces of Light, a lot of podcasts. I offer trajectories to people, really intensive trajectories online and in person. I have a membership in English. So it's like what I transmit mostly in whatever I do is high frequencies, high dimensional light codes connected to the crystal spiral. And we are ready now to receive that and to embody that. And what I've noticed is that the crystal spiral helps us in ascending at a faster rate. That's really what it comes down to. So yeah, and to me, it's all about love and truth. But, you know, love with a capital L and truth with a capital T.
Yeah. There's so much. I'm just getting excited because I'm like, there's so much to dive into. We might have to do sequels on this. Let's just see where it brings us. And this is also what I find is exciting about life, that we can actually live a life that we dream of being completely ourselves. And I love what you say about like the growing and exploring, and because that is exactly also how I feel. That's what I'm here for. That's when I'm in my, you know, I can feel it tingling. I was posting something in my story today about, you know, do whatever gives you that feeling of bliss, or, you know, that's connected to your purpose. And I remember someone saying these it sounds very simple, doesn't it? You know, it sounds like just do what brings you joy. And then what's interesting is all of the stuff that shows up when we really start doing what fills us with joy. And so I might want to just briefly go into, how has your journey been to where you are now? From where did you start out? Because I find it really interesting when people are listening, because they might want to live in their purpose. They might want to do whatever, you know, tickles their joy, but then they're like, but she's there and I'm here. And so I love that, to kind of start at the beginning, per se, wherever you feel like, where was there a life-changing moment, or where did you really reap that wisdom, maybe through difficulty or suffering, or, you know, so that people also might relate and see, oh, you know, maybe I can do that.
I'm convinced many people can really live their purpose. I'm convinced we all can. And so to share a bit about my story, I'm born in Netherlands. I still live there, actually. I didn't feel understood as a child. You know, I knew things, I felt a lot, and it wasn't being acknowledged. So that was the first bummer, like, oh. And I guess a lot of people can recognize that, you know, to start with, especially people who call themselves high sensitive or, high sensitive persons. Then I had an experience, so fast forward. This was really when I was very young, even like, I longed back home. I was very little when I looked up and I was like, so how did I end up here? There even was a time when I was convinced I had been adopted, because, you know, this wasn't the world I knew, the world of love. So I really feel I come from love. And I've always known that, only temporarily in this human body, I forgot, you know, because of all the other messages I got, which didn't relate to what I felt inside. So what you do as a child is I did, at least, and I think most children do. You tend to, how do you say that? Do as you're supposed to do. You know, you forget who you are. You forget where you come from. You forget why you came here. And you adjust. Then I was raised Roman Catholic, and we went to church every weekend, and I loved it. Jesus felt like I knew him, you know. I loved the stories. I felt so much love, and whenever there was talk about Mary Magdalene and that she was a prostitute, it hurt my heart. But I didn't understand, of course. And then there was a moment when I must have been around 7. I can't recall exactly, but I was very young, 6, 7, 8. And the priest said something like, to feel God or to communicate with God, you need to come to church. this is the only place where you can feel him. And there was this, well, I would say now it came from the inside, but as a child, it felt like it came from the outside, like a voice, a light. And I heard it in my heart, really. This is not truth. Truth is God. I am everywhere. I am here within. I am without. And I am with you always. You are with me always. We are not separate. But it felt like blasphemy, thinking that.
Yeah.
I felt shame shortly afterwards. I didn't dare to tell anyone. And well, fast forward again, I got off track. I lost my path at a certain moment. But as soon as I lived on my own, I started to dive into spirituality. And I never lost asking questions. Even in puberty, even during teenager time, when I really lost track, I never stopped with self-reflections. I never stopped asking questions. I always wanted to know. So my questions, my curiosity really eventually led me to where I am right now. And I honor curiosity in everyone. So, and being open and and on my path, a lot happened. And eventually I had to acknowledge what happened to me as a child, and that was truth. It was truth. So I had to shed a lot of conditionings. I had to really look into, who am I? And a lot of self-inquiry, self-investigation, starting to really get acquainted with the signals my body is giving me all the time, and honoring them, because my soul, your soul, our soul communicates with using our body in that sense, and our emotions. And I had to learn that all emotions are valuable. And eventually, the quote I live by, it arose in me at one day, like, everything in my life is for me. How can anything ever be against me? Life is for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow, that's quite powerful. And I would say it's so beautiful to hear that right now as a kind of a symbol of our time and what we're going through.
Yeah.
Because it's, without going too much maybe also into detail, who knows, but I feel right now we are truly being asked to look at who am I being in the world and for myself at the same time. I don't think there's ever been a time, at least in my lifetime, where I'm being asked to look at myself in terms of the world and how I'm playing a part of the grander scheme, like the global, us as a global entity and humanity. And at the same time looking at myself. I think so many of us have been kind of trained to look at just our world as this bubble. And it's like the bubble has popped now. Something has changed our collective humanity. So we have to look at everything we're doing as a part of the whole. And it's just such an interesting thing what you're saying, because I do feel that is the game changer, when we truly understand that life is for us. And for me, my personal journey has been so much about waking up so much with anxiety. I wasn't aware of it at the time, but the way I was coping, my coping mechanism in the world with my sensitivity was just to swallow everything. I just swallowed everything. And so I had loads of like digestive issues, like constantly bloated or stomach pains or something, because I just swallowed down my voice. As a woman and as a very young mother, I had my son when I was 19. Spoken about this before in my podcast as well, maybe not so much in detail, but it's something about firstly being a woman and then also being a mother. And I can remember that what I did was I could feel I was longing to be my true self, but there's something that comes with motherhood that kind of dictates how you should appear, or at least there's expectations to what a mother is. And so for me, my journey has really been to quiet down the voices from the outside and tuning more and more and more inside. And just like we talked about before the podcast started, which I think would be interesting, is how do you define motherhood on the spiritual path? You know, how have you managed to kind of see that the world is not against you, and how you can choose the life you want to live? You can choose a different path as a mother, as a woman, or whatever, and feel that it's your right to do so and to be so, even if the world might not reflect your choices.
Well, I've been a mother for quite some time already, and I've always been a rebel. You know, I've had this rebellious character always. So my first pregnancy was when I was 22, and it was a miscarriage, but that soul really woke up a lot within, and I knew from the beginning. So my boyfriend at the time didn't want to have the baby, but I knew I can never, you know, abort it. It would harm my soul. So I was instantly connected to that soul. And so that was when motherhood was being awakened within. Then at 28, I got pregnant of my oldest daughter. And the pregnancy was far from easy. Actually, I had to rest a lot and was being taken into the hospital. 28 weeks pregnancy. I was about to give birth already. They managed to stop it for another 6 weeks with a lot of medicines. And so that was my beginning of motherhood, physical motherhood. And after that, I was even more convinced that I needed to raise this child in my very own way. And because, you know, when you have experienced this as a baby, you can get all kinds of attachment problems. And I had dived into that already. I'm a social worker. So I knew about what children need. I knew what I had missed, so that I wanted to do certain things in a different way. So from the outside, I guess it looked to people around me that I did everything in a different way than normal people did. Like I carried her all the time. This is, we're talking, she will turn 24 this year. So it's a long time ago. Now it might be normal, but back then it was, I breastfed her when she requested it. I breastfed her for almost 2.5 years. She slept with us. You know, whenever she needed something, I was there. And I wanted to let her feel you matter. You know, I hear you, I see you. And
beautiful.
Also, when it comes to vaccines and going to, to the doctor at certain times that you needed to go with your child, I made my own choices eventually. And so it was yeah, it wasn't easy for my environment. It wasn't easy for me. I asked quite a lot of myself in that sense. And I could feel my power as well, you know, how much I was devoted to live life in my own way and to find new ways as well. So I guess that has always been a part of my journey since then. So this child has always been my teacher in that sense. And I've always seen her that way and honored her in that way. And yeah, when it comes to motherhood, I really feel that our children are here to not only be taught something by us, but also to teach so much. So when I had my second child, also a daughter, also born 6 weeks early.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Very interesting. She had to go into this, how do you call that, incubation? Well,
I understand. I
don't know.
actually don't know the name in English, but I understand. Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think that's
yeah, and she was on the IC for babies as well. And she didn't grow at a certain moment, and I was there as much as I could, but I had another one as well. So after 10 days, they said, oh, she needs to be here for a longer time. And I was like, no, I will bring her home because I know what she needs. She needs to be comforted. She needs skin to skin touch. She needs to be breastfed whenever she needs it, when, you know. And as soon as I took her home, she grew from day one onwards. And yeah, so that has been very empowering. And I don't know if this is an answer to what you actually questioned, but that was what was being triggered when you asked about motherhood. And
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very it was a time of deep initiations and also deep awakenings, because where did all this knowledge come from? That what I had been taught wasn't the right way for me or for my children. They needed something else. And I knew they were starseeds. And even if they don't want to know, maybe I knew back then, you know, you come here with different gifts, with a different frequency, and it's very precious, and you are precious, and you need to know you're precious.
I love that. I don't know what I asked by now. It's more like, I just love how we flow. And this is, you know, for me, this is a completely feminine, intuitive flow that I show up with here. And I just love that you're flowing with me, because what I feel is coming through I can feel it in my heart. And it's so beautiful to have you as an example to come on. And also what I can feel is your strength, your feminine strength, but also the gentleness that comes with the love you have for your children. It is felt as something so pure, but behind that, what I love is that in its strength, because you just knew. And I do know personally how much courage, and, you know, I salute you also and bow to the courage it must have taken back then. Because I know my mother didn't choose that necessarily. I'm probably, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not 24, so it's not 24 years ago, but I know that in the 80s, for example, you know, it was suggested, you know, to keep the baby crying and laying down. And even if my children are born in the 2000s, you know, as millennials, many of these choices that we feel intuitively and very strongly, even without knowing, as you say, it's beautiful to hear, and also be able actually, for the first time on my podcast, to talk about how important it is. And it's actually been a deep desire of mine to speak of and out to other women and mothers in this time, without it being like a huge call to, motherhood and humanity. We can also simply acknowledge that we are so powerful as mothers. We are raising the next generations to come. This holding and the space that we are fiercely, protecting for them is changing so much for these beautiful babies and, now soon to be grown-ups and already grown-ups that can step into the world because they're held, and because they might not need to maybe listen so much to the outside world because they have a strong example of somebody who didn't. So therefore, for them, it's easier, or will become easier as they understand it for themselves, that I can. And I can choose this time because somebody chose that for me. And I also, I truly see how the journey of motherhood is definitely an initiation, but that I feel we have so much power right now to also, and quite bluntly, because it's my own podcast, to say no to what's happening to our children, also the little ones. I have an 8-year-old in school, and to simply refuse for some of the things that are implied for them to do and partake in, which I just don't, I can feel it in my mama heart, even if I'm also a rebel and have made my choices to have natural health and natural immunity. And, that's what I mean, my children eat ice cream and sugar and all of it, but I promote that, which is also a choice. But at the same time, even if women or mothers do not promote that, they can see how their children are doing right now. And they can see how these sensitive children are reacting. And I feel it's time to truly listen, protect, and to stand together. It's almost like what I'm seeing right now is like, imagine if all of us mothers are just standing hand in hand, forming a circle around them. No one can pass through a mother. There's nothing more powerful than that. Yeah. That just came to me right now, and it feels like such a joy to be able to actually talk about this, because I can feel that there are mothers who are hesitating right now, and I know how much it hurts ourselves when we feel like we have to do something because we're told, and yet we're hesitant in our hearts. And then we do them anyway. And I say this without judgment and with so much love and compassion. I understand where you're at, if you're out there listening, but I also know there's another way. And I also want to say that, there are people like you and I, and many of us actually out there supporting you, even if we're not in your living room or wherever. We are here, we are present, and we're out here. Yes, I could feel a lot of loneliness in my rebelry. I could feel very lonely back then. I actually think that many are not aware of how many of us there are. That's why I'm also starting off a very powerful podcast 2022 with you, because I feel like we're out here. We are. So for anyone hesitating, I mean, I can't speak for you, but for me, it's like, get in touch, join our memberships, or come into our spaces, because there's many of us and we are gathering. And it feels, for me, that feels so joyful and like powerful in itself, but also hopeful.
Definitely. And I know people need that, because yes, a lot of people are actually feeling lonely. But I also know what we're capable of, and it. And, life is truly, it is magical. It holds magic. It holds miracles. Actually, miracles are not that extraordinary. We consist of miracles.
It's so funny, because now the next thing that came into me was, I want her to speak about miracles. And there you just went, because I would actually love, for anyone watching or listening, I highly recommend going into your channel. At least I've seen some of your videos, and I know you're on Instagram, and I'll post all the links below, but I would really love if you would want to share. I don't know, it's almost like we can't feel everything, through words, but yeah, I mean, to share some of the experiences you've had. And I just want to kind of give you the platform to share what that means to you. What does that mean to you? I love hearing stories. I love, the stories. And I can see from some of your transmissions, I know that you've been to the land of the Cathars and the, Magdalene caves down south in France. And I felt the calling myself to go there. And then, didn't happen right now because of all of these funny things happening to our travel routes. But would you care to share some of these beautiful miracles and the magic that you experience, and how you lead your life as a miracle probably as well,
Yeah, I would love to. I love to talk about miracles because I really feel that hearing about them, and also that miracles are actually in the ordained, in the day-to-day life, but we don't recognize it anymore. So I love to talk about them. So thank you for you. I love your questions. I love how this flows.
I know, me too. It's a co-creation.
Yeah, sorry?
It's a co-creation.
It is. It is. Yeah. That's what life is too. Life is a co-creation. And so we're tapping into the miracles of life constantly. But let me share with you an example, like when I went to Egypt with a group for the first time. And I didn't mention it at the time. I was being called to facilitate it, to organize it. And I had never been to that part of Egypt, to any of the temples, to any of the sacred sites we were going to, which is rather odd, especially for a land like Egypt, It's not my culture. Well, it is, but from other lifetimes, not in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So I went there with the group, and we needed to travel more southwards than Cairo, but then you have to transfer in Cairo. And we had to do so at a counter, and it was very late. And the man behind the counter was very moody, to say the least. And there was a young man, maybe late teenager years, who was right in front of me, and the group was behind me, and a very long row in the space we were in. And this man began to shout against this young man, and I felt it was a very sensitive young man. You could feel his energy. He was beautiful in his energy, very angelic like. I still see him, and he was shocked because he was really shouting at him, "You're at the wrong corner, you need to be there and there." And the whole energy, the whole atmosphere in that room was like, we're traveling, we're on a vacation, we're excited, and it was like going so low, and you could feel anger going towards that man, his anger being projected again. And it all went in a few seconds. So I'm explaining it in a lot of words, but so I noticed within what emotions were being raised in me. And I could feel the anger, I could feel the frustration, I could feel, all of this. And then I brought it to my heart, and I realized, you can only act like this because you're not in your heart. That must hurt. You must feel so much hurt that whatever you're feeling inside, you are projecting towards an innocent young man. And I didn't feel any condemnation. I didn't feel judgment. I only felt okay, you know, like Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. It's a Hawaiian prayer. And I looked at this man and I was like, what you need is love. And also that young man in front of me. So when it was my turn, the energy was still low, and I was like, okay, I really want to see you from my heart, and I'm going to meet you from my heart. And at first he didn't look up. He took my passport and my visa, and it was like, and I said, good evening. And I said, and then he asked a question and I answered, and maybe because of my voice, of my I don't know what, but he looked up and I smiled and I received a smile back, and the whole atmosphere in the room changed, in the whole row, and it was over 60 people. Maybe people don't view this as a miracle, but I do. I choose to see it as a miracle. But this is one of the examples that miracles are in the mundane, because it is quite normal for us when we are in the heart to meet another one in the heart, and to just remind someone else, first remind yourself how someone can act out like that, and then remind the other one, you know, you are love as well, and I see you as love. I meet you from soul to soul, from heart to heart. And yeah, that is one of the examples. And after that, our whole journey was full of miracles. Really, really. Whenever there was military stopping us, we could pass with ease and grace, even though we traveled through the desert and we weren't allowed to do that, and yet we could pass. Yeah, what is a miracle? I feel life starts with miracles, you know. How is a baby being conceived? Isn't that a miracle? How about the seasons? Isn't that a miracle? So it's not about winning the jackpot or something like that, and it's not about manipulating so miracles can happen, but it's being open and having the perspective of being part of one big miracle, which is called life. And then, you know, nothing comes to mind right now, but every day I experience miracles.
Yeah, and what I think it's just beautiful because I can feel it in your presence. I really do. I mean, we've connected a lot online, and now it's the first time we're actually interacting like this, and I can feel it. I can feel how you're shining and beaming, and yeah, I think also, oh, the sky outside is also so beautiful. You know, a sunset is a miracle.
Oh yeah.
But I do feel that, and it's interesting because I just felt like sharing a video today, and for those watching, you can see it on my website later on, but it was a lot about how, you know, we can create the life that we dream of, and we can truly experience life as a miracle itself. But I do remember when I could not, because my heart I felt like I was in brokenness. And I feel also that what I feel like sharing is that is possible. There, healing is possible. Even the things and the feelings and emotions and patterns and whatever has been passed on to us through generations, maybe we can actually, if we feel called to, and if we feel that is our choice, because we have free will, you know, we can choose, that can be healed. And I also share that it is a day-to-day practice. It is actually a day-to-day choice that we have to make. And for me, one of the biggest awakenings recently, which I wrote a book about a lot of it, which because it just catapulted something, was the deep grief that I've had to go through, the deep wounding and the suffering that I've had to feel. But that what is really coming through into my life right now is that even if we are in deep suffering, it doesn't mean life can't be a miracle. It's just a transient, you know, whatever it is. There's so many, what I can say is that for me, it's been a lot about just releasing what is no longer, because it actually has to be released before you can open your heart even further. So, because I really love to demystify spirituality as something cloud-like. You're skipping along with the unicorn and the fairy dust, you know? And I love other podcasts when people are like, you know what, life can also be, you know, BS. It can be like, you know, it can also feel extremely frustrating and limiting, but it can be transient, and it can be a part of the human experience. And then this too shall pass. And I can say that with my hand on my heart, when I chose not to run away from my grief, my pain, and I chose, you know, bravely to meet it, to heal it, to meet darker parts of myself, and to truly, and it's been tough, I can feel it as I'm talking about it, to truly see that, okay, I can see how the situations I've created in my life came from a very limited belief system. Yes, I will actually stop now, take a breath. This past year has been that for me, to stop completely. It was life stopping me, actually. It wasn't necessarily, I was charging ahead and manifesting and visions and things. And then it was like, nope, you're not going further because you actually deserve more. So therefore, I will stop you physically, help you really go into your body, really understand that there's a huge piece of gunk and junk and whatever belief system. It needs to leave. And I was like, oh, this is tough. And it took a while. And there was a lot of ego deaths, and I had to face all of it. And there's, I'm sure, more. But then what I can say for me, which is the greatest miracle, is that even in that heartache where I thought, I don't think I can do this. I don't think there's another rainbow on the other side of this. This feels so tough. And I think many can relate this past year or years. There is, when we go through it and we can actually release and then again choose, you know what? I don't know what's ahead, but in faith, I choose to believe that what is ahead of me is a beautiful, you know, miracle. That's when I've seen that, oh my God, like I told you before we started, my life has shifted, and mightily so, and quickly, very, very quickly. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, if you want to speak to any of what I said. I don't actually need to direct you either, but if there's something that, yeah, or not.
Well, you know, it resonates and I recognize it. Actually, what came to mind after I said nothing comes to mind, I do have a video on YouTube with a bird which flew against my window. It was on Valentine's Day, and I think it's called Love Heals. So, you know, you can see something people tend to call miracles. It resonates a lot, and I talk about it a lot as well. Like, you know, it's we can choose. We can choose what we tap into. We can choose what we believe. We can choose what we stay loyal to. And yes, it it requests devotion, perseverance. It requests faith, and no stopping, no stopping. And what I feel, especially in this time right now, is that is actually the challenge, recognizing what our choices actually are, and they are limitless. But at least let's open up to a few more choices in the beginning. So choose to see things from different angles and be open to the possibility that we might be wrong. We might not know the answers yet here we are. So and every moment we have choices, and every moment we can come back to certain choices that turned out to be the wrong ones. And you might not be able to wash away anything that happens, but we can definitely learn from it. And that's why we are here. And it is about faith. It is about what I said to you at the beginning before we started to record: ruthless honesty and transparency. And ruthless doesn't have a nice sound, but it is wrapped in love, and it is drenched in love, really, in the higher frequencies that are really being embedded within our bodies and within this earth plane. We cannot hide anymore. No, we cannot. You can try to hide, but you can't. No one can, because this light is it's fierce in a way. It's fierce light, it's fierce love, but it is love. And it's not here to make us feel ashamed, but we have to meet the shame that is being triggered, that is being put into the light. When it is being put in the light, we have to meet it. We have to greet it. We have to be compassionate towards ourselves first and foremost, and really meet all of ourselves. And that is really, it seems to be a new way of living, yet it is not. It is the most natural way of living, only we forgot temporarily. True. But once we do, it's easier than breathing in a way. It becomes easier the more you do it. Which doesn't mean it can't be challenging, but that is the paradox of life as well, isn't it? It's full of paradoxes.
There's a title for this conversation that's coming to me, which is The Courage of the Open Heart. Or living, the courage of the open heart, because I do feel that I know that what's on the other side of living with a closed heart, living with an open heart, there's so much joy. It's so, when I speak to you or others in my, in my soul family, or, in the family of people that I meet who have and come from an open heart, not always, but who has set that as an intention, I just drop myself. It's such a relief to just drop myself. I don't need to think about how I look, what I'm doing, how I'm thinking, saying, representing, because I've dropped it. And that's what I feel this represents. I've dropped the layers and the identities of what I no longer am. And that is when you say, fierce, or what did you say, ruthless truth, that's what it represents to me. It's actually the biggest relief you could ever have, because you don't need to be anything anymore. It does require something to shed that, but it's the biggest relief. And sometimes, to me, and especially recently, what I've been feeling is that the lies are, for example, I'm not worthy of this. And it's heartbreaking to me to realize that I've said that to myself. Some of these things we're not aware of. And then when it's there in front of you, it's like, I don't need that anymore. And then the weight that is taken off. And so there's so much gratitude for me in this time where the light is shining through, so that these lies that are not the truth, of course I'm worthy. There was just a misunderstanding of that I was not. So thank you so much. What was also coming is that I don't know if you feel like it, but what was coming is as we close, if you wanted to lead us into prayer. I don't even know if that is something you do, but it's just coming through, a prayer for, and you choose what you feel wants to come forth. I've never done that before, but that's just what's coming through, and I want to cry because it's just so pure. Thank you so much, Ariette.
Thank you, love.
I'm so grateful.
All right. If you want, you can close your eyes, and if it feels good, put your hands on your heart, your beautiful, radiant heart, and see if you can feel the beat of it and the power of it and its love. So tune into the love within your own heart, beating through your body, radiating outwards. And as we pray, may this prayer enter your heart and reach anyone in the outer world that is ready to receive this vast love. I pray for you to tune into faith, deep faith, the faith of your soul. To tap into the ancient inner knowing, the treasures and keys you carry within your soul and your very DNA. Let's pray for love to be felt in your life every second you walk upon this beautiful Mother Earth. Anytime you meet yourself, whether in challenging times or weathering joy, may you see the beauty in everything that arises, everyone you meet, everything you see. May you rever yourself. Bow to yourself for your courage to be here now, incarnated, facing challenges and excavating the most beautiful, glorious treasures you have within your very soul and heart. May it be so. Eya, Ashe.
Oh, thank you so much. I just feel like it feels good to close with that piece. Thank you so much, Ariette, for coming on.
Thank you.
For anyone who wants to connect to you, I'll leave all of the links below. So thank you for listening. Anyone out there, I hope this gave you whatever was needed. Take whatever resonates, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.